Get our fonts, or I guess so.
Okay, we are live, everybody, and we are going to begin this council meeting tonight with a presentation from FTMSA. And are you the vice chair, Mr. Maital?
I am.
Yep, vice chair of the Franklin Township Municipal Authority, Mr. Maital.
Thank you.
I think we have a PowerPoint we're trying
Yes,
to
we're
get.
trying to do here.
Coming up now.
Well, that is a different font.
I believe it. I apologize for that.
So, I know some of you are new, some of you have been here and are aware of a lot of things, but we thought we'd kind of start at the beginning because you probably may have some of it slip through your mind because you have more important things to do. But so when we got on the board in 2019, we had to negotiate a consent order with the DEP. And that was because we had a lot of hydraulic overflows. We had manholes popping, raw sewage going into streams, people's yards. We had pump stations that were overflowing. So the DEP made everybody that was connected to the FTMSA, that would be, Murraysville, Monroeville, Delmont, Penn Township, sign this same consent order. And the consent order required us to do a lot of things. One was to complete a flow monitoring study of the whole system. We had to go out and inspect, survey all the manholes in the system. And that was, as you can see, there was over 4,500 manholes in the system. And then we created a GIS mapping system of the whole mess. And we had to do a video inspection internally of all the lines. That was quite an effort. Took more than a year. Cost us over $1 million to an outside contractor to do that. We had to smoke and dye all the main lines. And then with that internal investigation, there was what we refer to as 4 and 5 defects. This is a national grading system that everybody agrees to. And 4 and 5 defects are the worst, obviously. That's where the pipe is broken, collapsed. It's going to collapse pretty soon. So we had to fix all those. And then we had to enforce our lateral resale ordinance, which every time somebody refinances or sells their home, they have to have their lateral inspected. This couple of sketches here kind of gives you an insight of what we're looking for, or what we were looking for. Okay. A lot of times you get a cross connection between the storm sewer and the sanitary sewer. Could be from broken pipes. Sometimes just somebody connects it up wrong. Back in houses, we have roof drains that may be connected, or driveway drains that may be connected. Roots in the system which get in there and cause problems. If you look on this next one on the right, here's the collection sewer out in the street. This is the lateral, so we get a lot of root infiltration. Right here, this inspection stack right outside the house, there's really a trap in here, it's like what's underneath your sink. It prevents sewer gas from getting back up into the home. Unfortunately, with the camera work and the smoke testing, smoke will not get past that trap. And so anything that's broken back here underneath the house, underneath your basement floor, there's cracks and there's water getting in there. That shows up in our sewer. This is some of the kind of defects we find when we go through and look. This is a clay pipe sewer. It's orange. It's round. This was state of the art back in before 1970, even late 60s. Well, what happened a lot of times, instead of making an actual fitting, somebody wanted to make a new connection to a house, they would just break in with a hammer, stick the lateral in, and put some sort of something around there to seal it. Sometimes it was tar. In this case, it looks like it was cement. However, they weren't real careful about it because, like on this one over here, there's a big void. So you get water coming in there. Here's another example over here of an internal pipe. Again, this is a clay pipe sewer. And the joints, I don't know whether that's a joint or it could be a beam break. It is sheared, and the joint is offset here. So and up in here, you can see there's rocks about ready to fall into the sanitary sewer. Obviously, not a good situation. So far, we did a lot of the work that the consent order required of us. We've inspected and surveyed all the manholes. We did all our smoke testing of the system. We completed a video inspection of the system. As far as these 4 and 5 defects that were out there, we found over 1,000. And we fixed most of them. I think we have 20 or 23 remaining. And these are kind of nasty ones because they're deep. We need an outside contractor to do those. We completed the flow model, and with the flow model, we had rain gauges out there, so you kind of correlate rainfall with actually what's happening in the sewer. So we know we have a pretty good idea of what's going on in the system. You may recall that you just recently passed an amendment to the consent order, and that's to give us time to go back and do additional flow monitoring. It's kind of unfortunate that when we were given the initial time frame to do the flow monitoring, all of a sudden the rain stopped, and so we weren't getting good reads. We extended the contract for those 80-some monitors for 3 months, just hoping to catch more data points. So we're going to be doing some more to see what the effect of all this repair work that we've done has on the system. We know we know it's done a lot, but we will have to quantify it. And lastly, as part of the resale lateral ordinance, we've done over 1,500 lateral inspections since 2020. I don't know what was done before that, but with the while all that was going on with the consent order, you know, it's like your house. If you're doing something in the yard, all of a sudden your dishwasher breaks or something else happens, and you got another problem. So when we got in there, we found lots of issues to the treatment plant. This is a kind of an example of some of the wiring that we found. That's a junction box. If somebody can make sense out of that, I don't know. This is my favorite, one of them anyway. This is whoops, these are fuses down below here. They're long. Well, for some reason, instead of replacing the fuses, somebody got some copper tubing and smashed down the ends of it, wrapped duct tape around it, or electrical tape, I should say, and stuck it in there. And so there's no fuse there. So we hired an electrical contractor, an outside contractor, to come in and just start at the beginning and go through the whole wiring system at the treatment plant. Some of the other issues we've had, like here's a valve that was leaking. Instead of fixing or replacing the valve, they poured concrete around it and thought that would stop the leak. This is my favorite over here. This pipe broke, and so what they did was they got a piece of rubber and wrapped it around it and put a ratchet strap on it, and therefore it's fixed. Well, it stops leaking. It's a temporary thing, obviously, but it was still there when we got there. We did not have an emergency generator at the plant. We had some small generators, individual ones, but we didn't have a backup generator that would run the high voltage pumps. So Occasionally, our basement would flood with 8 foot of water. These are some of the things we've tried to overcome. Now, there's just normal stuff that needs to be done at the treatment plant, like any mechanical thing. So this is our trickling filter, and there's 2 of them at the plant. This media here, which is what the sewage flows down through and does starts the biological treatment process. This media was 40 years old. The manufacturers say, well, it should only be there for 20 years, so we replaced all that in the 2 trickling filters. We're also doing this rather large project. When you have a treatment system like this, you got two trains. One's the water end of it that you're trying to treat. The other is the solids that are collected. So what do you do with the solids? Well, there's one of the things you have to do with it is to get it to digest and reduce its volume and kind of eat itself. What was down there was you may have heard the infamous egg-shaped digester, which was an anaerobic type process. In other words, no air. And it creates methane, which in theory you could burn and create electricity. Unfortunately, it was 20-some years old. A lot of the parts you could not find. The original manufacturer didn't support it. So we've gone to what is referred to as an aerobic digestion system, where you pump air through it, and the oxygen then causes a biological process to reduce the volume. Once the sludge goes through the digester and gets thickened, we run it through a belt filter press, which compresses all the water out of it. The water goes back to the head of the plant, but the solids end up going to a landfill. We've done some other things too. We now have we've upgraded the SCADA system. This is a communication system from the pump stations and various parts of the treatment system that goes back and it monitors all kinds of things: pressure, flow rates, temperatures. So a lot of this stuff, particularly with the remote pump stations, we can monitor all this stuff and know what's going on. A lot of times we'll get alarms, or our supervisors will get alarms in the middle of the night, and they're able to see what the problem is, and if they need more manpower on the way there to take care of it. We purchased a lot of equipment in-house to do in-house work. We've got a very good staff, but we've done a lot of the repair work to the 4 and 5 defects on our own with the equipment that we have. We also did the smoke testing by buying our own equipment. And we think we've saved a lot of money by doing this. Some other things, we have a new billing system and accounting software. One of the things that really is helpful is this work order tracking system. Pump needs replaced or repaired, or a lateral somebody needs some work. Well, all the man hours that go into that are tracked, and anything that had to be bought, that goes into that. So we have a pretty good idea on what stuff costs. We have some intermunicipal agreements with some of the surrounding communities to do their consent order work. We've also created a secure site as required by the Department of Homeland Security. We have gates, fences, cameras, electric door locks. They're coming out this month, next month, Nick? Homeland Security. Next week, okay. They're coming out to inspect it. We replaced the pumps at the main pump station. They were not good. The Sloan pump station, which you may have heard, overflowed quite a bit. What was happening there was a lot of debris coming down the line. Every time you got a heavy rain, We get down into our pumps and clog the pumps. We get big rocks, mop heads, all kinds of stuff coming in, and so we've got a screening system to separate all that stuff out now. And we've also kind of improved our financial investments. When I started, we get a report every month, oh, we made $400 on investment income. And they're like, we got millions and millions of dollars, we made $400 in interest. I think this year we've gained over $300,000 in interest. We hired an outside firm, U.S. Asset Management, that does all that. We have a lot of work to do. One of the things is for our nitrification tower, that needs redone. The median side's gone. We've just received a $7.6 million grant. It's not a grant, it's a loan from Penvest. We do have a grant for $850,000 to replace all the doors and windows. That stuff's been there since the plant was built. It's single pane glass. The people that work inside, they're wearing coats to go to work. So that's something. We have some interceptor repair work to do. If you look on some of the mapping, you will see that, for instance, the line that comes down from, we've referred to it as the Heather Highlands interceptor, but it takes quite a bit of flow from over there near the golf courses all the way up to Heritage Estates. The alignment was rather poor. We'd have sewers making 90-degree bends, less than 90-degree bends. You can just imagine it causes a lot of backups. So that work is under permit review by the DEP. We had to get a permit because it's near a stream. We'll probably end up putting in a flow equalization tank somewhere in the system because we don't know that we're going to get all the rain out, all the infiltration out. We're also putting in a low flow pump at the force main at the main pump station. We know that a lot of this work that has been done has decreased the volume of water that's coming in. So now what happens, the pumps that are there are used to a lot of flow. So when there's a little bit of flow, they're constantly going on and off, which is not a good situation. So we're going to put a low flow pump in. And we're going to be dealing a lot with customer I&I, inflow and infiltration issues. This is kind of the stuff we get into. On the left, I don't know where my arrow went. There it is. Okay. This moving water does not take a good picture, but here's somebody's house lateral, and this is water flowing into it. This is clear water. It's not sewage water, it's clear water. We sit there, the camera sits there for a while, and you can tell whether it's, toilet flushing or something like that. Over here on the right, here's another one. This is clear water. It's coming in from a lateral. That's where we think a lot of our problems are. So we'll be addressing those with the individual homeowners. I'm sure there'll be some pushback on some of that stuff, but that's the way it is. We're fortunate. The council has appointed a good board. We work well together, and we have a good staff. With me tonight is Nick Kerr. He's our one of our managers. Him and Bob Schwarmer and Julie Caper have done a marvelous job with dealing with people and dealing with all these issues. RDM is our kind of our financial advisor, and Nick brings a wealth of experience with operations and constructions. So that's kind of, and I'm sorry for, it's a broad brush view of what we've been up to. I mean, every month we get a, we get a nice, we get the electronic version, but there's all kinds of resolutions and pictures and whatnot, so we have a good idea of what's going on in the system and what has been accomplished in the past month and what needs to be done. So thank you for the opportunity to come here tonight. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them for you.
Bob, one quick question. I had a neighbor, it's been actually years that they moved away, but I believe it was Johnson Avenue or Street, which is close to the plant.
Okay?
The point was, it stunk. Boy, it really was bad odors down there. Is that still the case in that area?
Well, you know,
Close to the plant?
yeah, every time I go over there, you know, I roll the windows down and stop there for a minute just to see what's going on, as does several of the other board members. We think going to this aerobic digestion is going to cut down on quite a bit of that. We're halfway through that conversion process right now. You may have seen on TV this commercial for Poof. I don't know whether any of you seen it. It's, you know, they pull out something that's really smelly and they spray it on there and I'll smell it and oh my, where'd the odor go? We've installed several systems around tanks down there, and just in case we have any odors. But if your neighbor or whatever, any of you hear of that, please let us know. We're constantly monitoring it to make sure there is no odor. But
Okay, council, other questions or concerns?
Yeah, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Just generally speaking, you know, in terms of the consent decree, or the consent order rather, what other reporting do you need to go back to the DEP? Are they up to date with all the
oh yeah,
progress?
we have to submit a report to them every 6 months.
Okay.
And it's a written report. They actually came out a year or so ago, and kind of impressed with the progress that we've made. We're well ahead of schedule. We have another year to take care of these 23 defects, but now we've got some extra time because they've allowed us to do this additional flow monitoring to see how well our system's done. One of the reasons we need to do that is, as I mentioned, we're looking at probably having to do a flow equalization chamber somewhere. We don't know how big it's got to be or where exactly to put it. So that's why they're allowing us this additional period to do that flow monitoring.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Real quick then, on the 23 that are the severe ones, the 4s and 5s, is there additional costs associated to?
Oh, there's costs associated with all this, yeah.
Figured that.
Yeah, they're the nastiest ones that remain. We'll probably have those done in what, next 3 months, Nick? Yeah. So.
We've had Mr. Wolf come here, lives in Heather Highland. Has he approached you or the FTMSA?
And not to my knowledge. I mean, and when we started, yes, Mr. Wolf was one of our attendees. We haven't seen him in a couple of years. Nick, have you heard from Mr. Wolf? Intermittently? Okay. So,
Is areas where some of the last defects are that need to be fixed. That's why
Yeah.
he shows up here.
I think he said he had trouble getting to the location where the meetings are being held. Is that what you guys remember? Because he had asked why the meetings weren't held here.
well, because when we have a meeting, just as, you know, you may have here, we have a construction meeting beforehand. We're constantly dragging out maps, pieces of paper, resolutions, whatnot, and we need those resources to do our job.
Understandable.
Okay? Thank you for this opportunity, and again, if you have any questions that pop into your mind in the future, please give us a call, give any one of us a call. I did make some of these. Could you pass these out, please?
Mr. Maital, does that include the progress report that is presented to the board every month?
That does not, but
Would you provide that to one of the to Mr. Nestico,
Yeah.
And
here's
just to
one-
give
here's one
the,
right here
uh,
that we just received.
just to give council an idea.
It's color coded, so it shows which ones are, what's coming up next, what needs to be accomplished. We get that every month. And Mike will make copies of that sometime and those
Up on the
out to
screen?
us.
Could do
You
that.
all. Okay?
They wanted to put it up on the screen, put it here.
Oh, okay. Good. Does it appear by magic, or?
Somewhat. Sometimes I have to magically go back.
Yeah, this lists all the various steps each
Could you put that list up that he's pointing to on the desk there? Yeah, that with the red. Yep. Thank you. Just a moment.
Sounded good on the microphone.
Oh, shoot. There we go.
Okay, there it is. So each month, our engineer prepares this and shows us in a color-coded kind of way as to what's been done, what needs to be done. Down here in yellow is the semi-annual report that has to be done in January.
Can you use the mic?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, if you'll notice down here in yellow, there's the report that's coming up due in January of next year. Green is things that still need to be accomplished. The red colored ones are the stuff that's been done. And there's a color code up there in the upper right-hand corner of what it's ciphering all of that.
Bob, would it be fair to say that the consent order has nothing to do with the storm sewers?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So I have a,
The only thing that it has to do with it is if there's any connections between the storm sewers and our sanitary sewers, we haven't found any of that yet.
with all the work that's being done, the 7.5 million loan that you had to take out, do you foresee any increase in the monthly fee for residents?
Yes. Unfortunately, we've borrowed tens of millions of dollars, I think. Board had authorized another 10 million. We've borrowed 30 million so far. Fortunately, we've got some grants here. But as you know, I'm sure you're working on your budget, and you know the squeeze for everything from gasoline to insurance to whatever, as they should, just to keep your people level with everything. So, yeah, there will be a rate increase. That's one of the things we're looking at right now as to how much that might be, and we're trying to keep it down. Even if, you know, we are still, I want to say we're the lowest. We're certainly not the highest in the area. So some people are paying well over $100 a month for sewage because of the improvements that they've had to make to their system. You know, you can delay and delay and delay trying to keep rates down, but eventually you have to pay the piper.
And that the facility serves multiple municipalities, is that correct, Mr. Maitel?
Yes, we serve a small portion of Monroeville. We serve a portion of Penn Township. We serve all of Delmont and a portion of Salem Township. And those people were all part of the consent order.
Thank you.
Okay.
And the capacity, like what is the capacity that we're at for service versus potentially what it could still process?
Well, right now, our plant is rated at 4.9 MGD, and we're averaging now, what, 2.5 million gallons per day. Sorry, I get speaking engineering sometimes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maitel. Okay, council. With that, we will get into our regular meeting. We will begin with a roll call, please. Verdale?
Mr. Lemak,
Here.
Mrs. Lane,
Present.
Mr. McKenna, Mr. Olszewski,
Here.
Mr. Stepanovich,
Here.
Mr. Dice,
Here.
Mr. Diakopoulos,
Here.
Mayor Sinan.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Mr. Nestico, do we have any unlisted amendments this evening?
I do have one proposed amendment for this evening. That would be to add an item 16A under the Public Works Department to award the bid for surplus equipment. And I can go through that when we get to the Public Works portion of the agenda, but that would be the one item I would ask council to amend the agenda and add.
Okay, so whenever we get to that 16A, we'll come up with a motion to make and take it from there. And how many items do you think there are, do you know?
Listed under that
Yeah, just so.
agenda item. There are, what it is there are 5 pieces of equipment or vehicles that were sold on municipal bid. So council authorized the Public Works Department to place those items out to bid. Those sales ended on Friday afternoon, so it was a little bit after our time for our deadline for publication. And they are for the Athey belt loader, which was a $5,000 sale, 2017 Ford Explorer, a 2013 Ford Taurus, those are both police vehicles, a snow blower, and then a Toro Workman utility vehicle. It's just a small little, almost a golf cart type vehicle that they use to haul things around. So the total amount of the 5 combined items is around $18,000. So I can go through all of that, but that is what sold on municipal bid.
Oh, perfect.
Friday afternoon.
I just wanted to have a brief overview, and I think we should note too, we already voted to actually have these sales take place. We're just confirming that the sales actually occurred and, you know, they sold for this amount. So that'll be noted as 16A on the agenda.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. So with that, we come to our consent calendar items. Do we have any questions or concerns about the consent calendar items this evening? Hearing none, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve the consent calendar items.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Carl and Jason. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Consent calendar items are unanimous. That brings us to comments by the mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Dice. Sure, our slides coming up here. Anyways, first one is the curbside leaf collection program. There's only one date left. It's Saturday, December 14th. To schedule a pickup on one of the collection dates listed below, please fill out the curbside leaf collection program form on the website. There's a 20-bag limit each collection date. The deadline to sign up for each date is the Thursday before the pickup date. There were so many leaves on Saturday the 16th, some of the areas didn't get picked up till Monday because the trucks were just overloaded. Next, we have the Murraysville Community Library Putts for Pages. Join us for a mini golf event and fundraiser at the Murraysville Community Library, Saturday, November 23rd, 2024, for all ages, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., $5 per player, food and drink available for purchase, raffle baskets. Register today to reserve your spot at givebutter.com/MCLputts. There is a code on the website. I think you can scan that also. Another glass recycling pop-up collection event is Saturday, December 7th. Veterans Field Parking Lot, 4200 Sardis Road, Murraysville, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Residents are also encouraged to support the Loaves and Fishes Emergency Food Pantry by donating non-perishable food items. Food pantry volunteers will be at the pavilion accepting drive-through donations during the same hours. This is sponsored by Municipality of Murraysville and Republic Services. The next coming up on the same day, Saturday, December 7th, is Santa at Sardis. This has been a very successful event over the years, so you might want to get there early. The parking area kind of fills up at some point. Lastly, we have Murraysville Recreation's Hot Chocolate Hikes. There'll be one on Saturday, December 14th at the McGinnis Reserve parking off of Hunter Road. Time is 10 a.m. Join the recreation for some fun 2-3 mile hikes over the winter. These are wooded hikes with some slopes and may require stepping over fallen trees. Please dress for the weather and plan for the terrain. If you need any more information, it's on MurraysvillePARecreation.com, and that concludes my report.
Okay.
Thank you.
That brings us to comments by the Chief Administrator. Mr. Nestico?
Just one item for this evening. Continue to make the community aware that the bridge on Old William Penn should be open starting next week. We're expecting it to be open on Wednesday, the 27th. Some folks in the community have called and asked some questions because I think they haven't seen work being done there at this time, and that is because they are in the curing process for the new concrete there. So again, we expect the bridge to be open sometime mid next week, and it'll get people back on their way and off of the detour. So that is all for this month.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. There is no community here, so we don't need to do community input. That brings us to liaison comments and committee reports. Jason, you want to start?
The library actually meets on Thursday, so I'll have a report next meeting.
Perfect. Coral?
The Parks and Recreation Foundation met, and the two things I'd mention is that the gifting policy is still being worked on, and also a pretty good idea of looking at having as a project what's called disc golf. To me, it's the Frisbee golf in the community park. So that's a project which I think would find a lot of acceptance, and we will be looking at that. And that's about it. Now, as far as Medic One, that's meeting Thursday of this week.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Jamie?
Okay, planning met on Tuesday, the 12th. There was only one item on their agenda. It was a public hearing for CU-4-24, which was basically taking the old Meyer hardware store and converting it to a karate studio plus a few other things like a chiropractor's office and some storage. So we'll be seeing that before council soon. That's it.
Awesome. Cool. Matt?
The Environmental Action Committee, no new agenda items, so the meeting for November has been canceled.
Okay, thank you. Eli?
Yeah, so the pension fund met for its quarterly meeting last Thursday. There's actually one action item in our administrative council items coming up, which is to approve Salem Trust as the new pension custodian, which would certainly support. I think the key point here is that it seems to me that some very good planning has been done to transition from the existing custodian through the end of the year. So, you know, rest assured we'll make sure there's no interruption with beneficiary payments through December because of that good planning. So there was a lot of discussion around that. So, and if you recall too, when we last discussed Salem Trust, it does provide additional visibility to the beneficiaries that the current system does not. So that's a positive that when it does get implemented in the new year would be a positive again for the beneficiaries. In terms of the overall fund performance, as you know, it's really a balanced fund where you're balancing growth and income. Year to date through October, it's around the 10% range. Of course, we all know how the market has been through the year, but then again, That's all high risk. And of course, we have to preserve capital and ensure the income is coming in. So at this point, there are no planned fund changes, though we continuously monitor that, and we've had some discussion around that for future consideration.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Great.
Oh, really in-depth, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, the only thing I'll note in regards to FTMSA, for anyone who missed the newspaper article, is they got a $850K grant, for anyone who didn't hear about that. So, yeah, a lot of money being spent, but they're doing what they can to recoup it. So that's occurring. With that being said, we will move on to our council action items. Can I have a motion for 13A, please?
Motion to approve resolution number 794-24, a resolution naming Salem Trust Company as the pension custodian and administrator of retiree benefit services for the police and non-uniform pension plans.
Second.
Jamie and Matt. Mike?
Yes, council did approve Salem Trust at our last meeting. However, to formalize everything, they needed a signed resolution from the municipality beyond just the meeting minutes reflecting the decision last meeting. So this is simply the resolution that's formalizing that decision to name Salem Trust as the custodian.
Okay, so again, mainly confirmatory. Any questions or concerns from council? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 13A is unanimous. Can I have a motion for 13B, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 795-24, the amended operating budget for the 2024 calendar year.
Second.
Thank you, Jason and Jamie. Again, we had a robust discussion about this at the last meeting. Any questions or concerns after review? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 13B is unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Can I have a motion for 13C, please?
Make a motion to approve advertise ordinance number 1094-24, the 2025 salary ordinance.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Matt and Eli. Pretty self-explanatory. We're just advertising the salary ordinance. We have to do it every year. Michael, anything to add? Any thoughts?
No, that's really it. Same thing with the tax ordinance below. Both of the items are in conjunction with the budget, so we're advertising the ordinances that would be adopted at a December council meeting.
Okay. Any questions or concerns?
I do have several questions. I know we're looking at 5 new positions, and with respect to, I can see clearly justification for 2 of those positions. As I understand it, the maintenance position, we're no longer going to be hiring somebody to do the work, outside person. We'll do that internally, that person.
Yes, that's correct. That would be the goal with the maintenance position.
Okay. And as far as the director of planning, with our current director of planning, well, Jim Morrison is no longer going to be in that position, so I can understand that. As far as the addition of a police officer, perhaps for discussion, we have a pretty safe community, and why are we hiring another police officer?
Sure, a good question. So we've had quite a few extensive discussions with the police department about this. The goal behind hiring an officer kind of checks several boxes. The first is that we have not increased staff in the police department for roughly 20 years. So even though the dynamics in the police realm have changed, the way that the calls come in, the type of calls they're responding to, we haven't increased our staffing there. We do think that, and right now we run a staff or a crew of 2 to 3 officers on a shift. When we have a call come in, typically we need 2 officers to respond. So the goal of hiring an additional officer is going to do several things. One, it's going to provide that that potential fourth person on a shift so that when multiple calls come in, we have 2 officers attending each call. It's also going to help with some of the overtime costs. And I think that, again, it's going to probably put us in a position where even though we're being responsive to the calls that all come in, it's probably going to lead to a safer environment for the officers that are responding to those calls. The dynamic and the type of calls that we get now are quite different even from 20 or 30 years ago. Simple domestic calls sometimes aren't as simple or straightforward as we'd like them to be. Things are a lot different out there, I guess, in the community, not only our community, but others as well, and especially a lot of the activity taking place on the highway. And if you follow along in the newspaper with some of the different things that our police department are enforcing along the highway, a lot of the different stores and the type of activity going on there, the traffic going up and down through the highway is quite different than it was many years ago. So we think that an additional officer is going to serve a number of needs in our department, not only providing the support, covering some of the overtime costs, but also being able to address the needs of the community as they evolve in the current day sort of situations.
I know a new officer gets to a point where they're, after 4 or 5 years, they're making six-figure salary, and they're justified. I understand that, but any idea? I know you do, and it's somewhere. But over time, we're spending what? $30,000, $20,000, $50,000, $80,000? That's the question.
I'm sorry.
How much are we spending on overtime?
Geez, offhand, I don't recall. I could probably tell you that momentarily, but I think we're in the range of, I shouldn't even guess, but maybe 60,000 annually, 70,000 is what's budgeted. And I can try to look back and tell you that number for sure, but I don't remember offhand, and I certainly don't want to misspeak.
Okay.
I don't have the ability to access my files from here, and I don't see it in a previous council meeting folder when we reviewed the budget because we had the printed out packets. So I don't recall that number offhand. I can certainly provide that to you and even bring that back to a future meeting to tell you what that number is, but I don't recall offhand.
So Carl, is your line of thinking that if we hire a new police officer, the amount of overtime should decrease?
Sure.
Right, so therefore, the actual wash with hiring a new officer would be less than the cost of their salary.
Well,
Is that?
That's fair. I would say that I wouldn't go to that extent. It wouldn't be a wash. And so to be completely
Not a wash,
transparent,
but
it would help to offset some of those overtime costs. Certainly more manpower is going to lead to the ability to negate some of the overtime, but it wouldn't wash it out entirely just based on the dynamic with sick time, paid time off, injuries and other things that occur. There is a certain amount of overtime that is almost necessitated. It's just going to happen regardless, and that would happen regardless of the amount of staff we have, because we have to provide enough coverage on each shift. So I don't want to have a misconception that it's going to negate it.
So just out of curiosity, in comparable boroughs, municipalities, whatever it is, of our size and population, I know it's hard to exactly duplicate that. Do you know, and I don't want to put you on the spot, approximately what their staffing is for their police department, like Penn, Trafford maybe, or something?
I don't know Penn Townships. I think I know North Huntington, but I do know that what comes to mind in similarly situated municipalities, budget-wise and also size-wise, they probably run a staff of around 26 officers. We have 21. And again, that's part of the reason why even before Chief Kaczynski took over, Chief Seefeld and I had several discussions, because our staffing level has been and remained at 21. Even though the size of the community has grown, our population has grown, certainly the amount of call volume has grown, and then of course the traffic on the highway has grown significantly, and the dynamic of policing has changed. So again, some of those discussions revolved around the fact that we are understaffed compared to relative departments. But we, again, I commend our police department. I think they've done a very good job of working within those constraints, keeping overtime down. But I think we're recognizing that at this time, it probably would help offset some of the overtime costs, and it's going to provide a safer deployment of our officers on each shift if we have that additional person in uniform. To answer your question, I think other similar departments are probably around 25 to 26 officers. We're a little bit thin at a 21 number, but
Rationale to the, with another truck driver, is there anything not being done now that we need another truck driver?
no, again, the reasoning behind that is kind of justified by the amount of road miles that we now have. So again, as new plans come in and we adopt new roads, I think, even in my short time here, council's adopted a few new roads from some of the new subdivisions. So every time we add road miles in to our infrastructure, it's more to maintain, it's more to plow, it's more upkeep in general. And so that's what this new truck driver and the new truck that's in the budget kind of in conjunction would bring. They would, again, allow us to manage the amount of road miles that we currently have. We've kind of, there's a formula for how many road miles per truck driver, and we've kind of crested that to where we've gotten to a new threshold where that's where the Public Works Department is asking for that new driver.
My final thing on that would be as far as an engineering technician, are we spending a lot of money for outside engineering services that would justify bringing in another technician?
So that is kind of a twofold position there. The idea of filling that position is because our current engineering technician is kind of progressing through the education process and getting close to certification. And as we talked about, I think even last meeting with some of the stormwater discussion, we have quite a few shortfalls from an engineering standpoint as far as mapping out our stormwater system, being responsive to our one calls, and overall addressing some of those needs internally, administratively. And so the idea with the engineering tech position is we want to look to try to fill that position because our current engineering tech is going to be taking on a higher level of responsibility, or at least that's the plan, is to consider having her take on a higher level of responsibility and do a little bit more of the technical engineering work and not just kind of the routine side of things. So it's all kind of putting the pieces of a puzzle together when you talk about the planning department and the engineering tech and our current engineering tech who's almost received her engineering certifications.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns from council? And again, this is just to advertise, so more, TBD. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 13C is unanimous. Can I have a motion for 13D, please?
Motion to advertise ordinance number 1095-24, the 2025 tax ordinance.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Jamie and Carl. Any questions or concerns from council about the tax ordinance? Or I should say the advertisement for the tax ordinance. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous, thank you. That brings us to 15A. Can I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to consider release of the bond being held for the completion of the Coltec Petrographic Associates Incorporated parking lot improvements in the amount of $13,321.90.
Second.
Thank you, Jason and Eli. Pretty self-explanatory. Michael, anything to add? They've just completed the work and therefore we're releasing their bond?
Correct. This is for the landscaping, which is the final portion of that project, and so this would release the full amount of the bond.
Okay. Questions or concerns from council? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 15A is unanimous. Thank you, everyone. That brings us to 16A, which I would word as,
And I can maybe have it
Yeah,
pulled up
please.
here on the screen. This is the agenda briefing that was put together, so you could take a look here. So there is a potential motion here if council is so inclined. Just so that we're aware, these are the 5 items that were sold on Municipid. So you can see those items there as well. So I can scroll up. That would be the motion if council would.
yeah, perfect. If someone would please make that motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the sale of 3 municipal-owned vehicles, 1 utility, and a snow blower through a competitive online bidding auction known as Municipid.
Second.
Thank you, Jason and Jamie. So we've talked a lot about these things. Any questions or concerns about them?
Was there any truth to the rumor that the 2013 police interceptor was purchased by a group referred to as the Blues Brothers?
Really? Yeah. Cannot confirm nor deny. Okay, any final questions or concerns? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, opposed? All right, 16A is unanimous. Any old business? Any new business? Okay, we are going to have an executive session tonight. There will be no action coming out of the executive session, so can I please have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Jamie and Matt. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.